The moon of Carthion 7 had once been a peaceful colony filled with farms, schools, and families. Now it was nothing more than a field of burning wreckage. Black smoke curled into the gray sky, and the sound of falling metal echoed across the ruins. The war between humanity and the Vyrexi Empire had turned this place into a graveyard. Lieutenant Aaron Vale moved slowly through the debris, his armor cracked and his oxygen supply running low. His squad had been destroyed hours ago. Only static answered his attempts to contact command. His pulse scanner blinked weakly, showing no friendly signals within 2 kilometers. He had survived the ambush, but barely. The Vyrexi had come from the skies like shadows, ships shaped like blades, weapons glowing with blue light. Their strike was swift and precise, and the humans never stood a chance. Aaron clenched his jaw as he looked at the ruins of what had been a civilian shelter. He remembered the screams, the people, the explosion that had thrown him into the crater. He pushed the memory down and focused on what mattered: survival. The air was thin and bitter. Each breath burned his lungs. He stumbled through the shattered remains of a transport hub, scanning for supplies. Broken drones and crushed exosuits lay scattered everywhere. A human helmet, half melted, stared up at him from the mud. He tried not to look at it, then he heard something, faint, almost lost in the wind. It wasn't mechanical. It wasn't a warning signal. It was a sound he didn't expect to hear on a battlefield, a small cry. Weak, trembling, like that of a frightened child. Aaron froze. He turned slowly, his rifle ready. His visor scanned the direction of the sound. Behind a pile of collapsed metal and stone, something moved. He approached carefully. "Who's there?" he said through his comm, even though he knew no human could answer. He pushed aside a broken steel beam, and his eyes widened. A small figure was curled up beneath the rubble, gray skin, silver blue eyes, and thin glowing markings across its arms. A Vyrexi child, no more than 6 or 7 years old in human comparison. Its breathing was shallow, and one of its limbs was bleeding dark purple fluid. Aaron's training screamed in his head. Enemy life form. Do not engage. Secure the area. Report to command, but command wasn't listening. And the child wasn't holding a weapon. It was holding a small crystal pendant. He lowered his rifle slightly. "Hey," he said quietly. "Easy now. I'm not gonna hurt you." The child flinched, pulling back against the wall, eyes wide with fear. Aaron could see the panic and the confusion in those alien eyes. "It's okay," he said again, his voice soft but steady. "You're hurt. I can help." He took off his helmet, letting the child see his face. His short brown hair was matted with dirt, and a line of dried blood ran down his cheek. But his expression was calm. Human warmth, something no scanner could detect. The Vyrexi child tilted its head, trembling. Slowly it reached out its small hand, touching his armor as if to make sure he was real. Aaron smiled faintly. "That's right. You're safe now." He pulled out a small med pack and scanned the injury. It wasn't too deep. He could stop the bleeding. Carefully, he wrapped the wound with a sealing bandage. The child winced but didn't cry out. "There," he said quietly. "Good as new." The child looked up at him, its silver blue eyes shimmering. Then, to his surprise, it whispered something in a faint voice. The translator implant in his ear barely caught it. "Mother." "Where?" Aaron felt a chill. He didn't know what to say. "I don't know," he admitted softly. "But we'll find her, okay? You just have to stay quiet and stay close." The child nodded weakly. Before he could move, his scanner beeped. Multiple signals, approaching fast. The red lights meant only one thing. Vyrexi patrol, Aaron swore under his breath. He grabbed his rifle and looked around. The area offered almost no cover. If they found him with the child, neither of them would live. He turned to the small alien. "Listen to me. You have to hide." The child shook its head, eyes full of fear. It reached for his hand, a gesture of pure trust. Aaron hesitated for only a moment. Then the decision was made. He lifted the child and hid it inside a broken cargo pod. "Stay quiet. Don't move." The Vyrexi patrol appeared moments later. Tall, armored figures with glowing helmets and plasma rifles. Their language echoed across the battlefield, harsh and metallic. Aaron ducked behind the remains of a fallen transport. He could see at least 5 of them scanning the area. One of them moved closer to the cargo pod, straight toward the child. Aaron's heart pounded. He raised his rifle, then lowered it. He knew firing would draw all of them on him. but doing nothing would mean death for the little one. He looked at the small figure peeking out, eyes wide and terrified. He couldn't let that happen. Before his mind could stop him, Aaron stood up and shouted, "Hey!" The Virexi turned sharply, weapons raised. Aaron opened fire, sending a burst of plasma shots across their line. 2 went down immediately. The others scattered, returning fire. Energy bolts slammed into the metal walls around him, lighting the ruins with blue flashes. He moved fast, using the wreckage for cover, but he was outnumbered. "Come on, Vale," he muttered, ducking another shot. "Just keep them away from the kid." He fired again, forcing them back. Then his rifle clicked empty. He barely had time to reload before a plasma bolt struck his shoulder, spinning him around. The pain seared through him, but he stayed standing. He saw one of the Virexi soldiers, the leader, marching straight toward the pod where the child was hiding. The alien raised its weapon. Aaron didn't think. He ran. He leaped between the child and the blast. The plasma hit him square in the chest, throwing him backward. His armor cracked, alarm screamed in his helmet, and he fell hard onto the metal floor. The sound of the child crying reached his ears, faint and desperate. Aaron tried to move, but his body refused. The world blurred. He could barely breathe. He turned his head and saw the leader aiming again, not at him this time, but at the child. "No," he whispered. With the last of his strength, Aaron reached for his sidearm. His vision dimmed, but he pulled the trigger once, then twice. The plasma shot struck true. The leader fell, its weapon dropping to the ground. The remaining soldiers hesitated. Sirens blared across the valley, reinforcements approaching. They retreated into the mist, vanishing into the smoke. Silence followed. Only the crackle of fire and the faint hum of broken machines filled the air. Aaron's breathing grew shallow. He looked toward the pod. The child crawled out slowly, tears glimmering in its eyes. It touched his arm gently. "Safe?" it asked. Aaron smiled faintly. "Yeah, you're safe now." The edges of his vision darkened. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was the child sitting beside him, holding his hand tightly wide, refusing to leave him alone in the ruins. Above them, the distant roar of engines signaled the arrival of rescue teams. But fate was already in motion. A simple human act, protecting a child, even in enemies, had begun something greater than anyone could imagine. For on a distant command ship, far across the stars, a Virexi commander suddenly paused. She felt it, the faint psychic bond that connected her to her young one. Her child was alive, and someone was protecting it. Her eyes glowed fiercely. "Find out who," she ordered, and with that, the story of a human who defied war to protect life had truly begun. The stars above the Virexi command ship shimmered like cold diamonds. Inside the main bridge, the hum of alien engines echoed quietly, and glowing data screens painted the room in shades of blue. Commander Lyra stood at the center, her tall figure calm but tense. Her silver skin reflected the light, and her sharp eyes focused on a small holographic image, the last known signal of her child. For 3 days, she had searched the war logs and battlefield scans, hoping for a miracle. Every report from Carthion 7 said the same thing. The colony had been destroyed, the battle lost. But Lyra felt something different deep inside her mind. The Virexi were connected through faint psychic threads, especially between parents and their young. That bond had not been broken. Her child was alive. She closed her eyes and concentrated. There, faint, far away, like a whisper through space. The heartbeat of her young one. Weak but steady. "Commander," said her second officer, a male Virexi named Drin. "You have not rested since the battle. The Council has ordered a full retreat. We must leave this sector before the humans regroup." Lyra turned her gaze toward him, her voice low but firm. "My child is still there. I will not leave without them." Drin hesitated. "With respect, Commander, the child's survival is impossible." "The human ground forces," she raised her hand, silencing him. "Impossible? I feel them. And there is something else. Another presence. A human." Drin looked uneasy. "A human?" "Yes," Lyra said softly. "Someone has protected my child." Drin's face hardened. "Then they will use the child as a weapon, as bait for negotiation or worse. Humans are known for their—" "Enough," she snapped. "You do not understand them as I do. They are not all monsters." Her words drew silence across the bridge. Few Virexi dared to question her, but even fewer shared her strange curiosity about the human race. To most of her kind, humans were unpredictable and violent, too emotional, too fragile. Yet Lyra had seen something different in past encounters, the strange courage that made them act without logic, without fear. She turned away from her officers. "Prepare my ship. I'm going to Carthion 7, Drin's eyes widened. "Alone? Do not follow. This is not a mission. It's a mother's duty." Without waiting for permission, she left the command deck. On the surface of Carthion 7, dawn broke through the smoke. The human rescue teams moved carefully across the ruins. Medical drones scanned for survivors, and soldiers worked to clear the debris. Inside one of the temporary shelters, Lieutenant Aaron Vale woke with a jolt. His chest burned with pain, but the medics had patched his wounds. The soft hiss of oxygen filled his mask, and the dull hum of machines surrounded him. "You're awake," said a medic nearby, smiling faintly. "You're lucky to be alive, Lieutenant. We pulled you from the wreck just before it collapsed." Aaron blinked, his voice weak. "The child?" The medic frowned. "You mean the alien?" Aaron nodded slowly. The medic motioned to a small corner of the shelter. There, sitting quietly under a blanket, was the Virexi child. Its bright eyes followed every movement in the room. Aaron let out a long breath of relief. "Good, they made it." "You saved it," the medic said carefully. "You took a plasma shot meant for it. That's not something most soldiers would do." Aaron looked down, silent. "Did Command hear about this?" "They did," the medic said. "Word is spreading. Some say you risked your life for an enemy. Others call you a hero, but Command isn't sure what to make of it yet." Aaron stared at the ceiling. "Let them think what they want. I did what was right." The child looked up as he spoke, its expression softening. It whispered a word, something the translator couldn't quite decode, but Aaron guessed the meaning. "Thank you." He smiled faintly. "You're welcome, little one." That evening, the human base was quiet. Most soldiers were asleep, and only a few guards patrolled the perimeter. The twin moons hung low over the horizon, their light touching the broken ground. Far away, a small Virexi ship descended silently through the clouds. Its stealth field shimmered briefly, then vanished. Lyra guided it down toward the ruins. Her heart pounded as she stepped out into the cold air. The psychic thread between her and her child grew stronger. Close now, very close, she moved quickly, avoiding detection. Her armor changed colors to match the shadows, and her eyes glowed faintly as she followed the invisible signal. When she reached the human camp, she stopped. Barriers of metal and force fields surrounded the area. She could sense the presence of soldiers and weapons, but her child was inside. She could feel the tiny heartbeat echo in her mind. For the first time in years, fear touched her heart. Not fear of death, but fear of losing what mattered most. She whispered to herself, "Hold on, my child. I'm coming." Inside the shelter, Aaron couldn't sleep. The child had curled up beside his bed, sleeping peacefully. He looked at it and felt something strange, a warmth that reminded him of home, of the small sister he had once protected before the war took her away. He sighed softly. "You shouldn't have to be part of this," he murmured. Then a sudden noise caught his attention, a faint click like metal shifting outside. He reached for his sidearm and stood carefully. The motion sensors were quiet, but something felt off. He moved to the doorway, peering out. The shadows moved near the fence, too silent to be human. A shape appeared, tall and graceful. A figure in dark armor stepped into the light of the moons. Aaron froze. It was a Virexi, but not like any soldier he had seen. The armor was ceremonial, carved with ancient symbols, and the figure's movements were fluid, almost ghost-like. He aimed his weapon. "Stop right there." The figure raised its hand slowly, showing no weapon. The helmet folded back, revealing a face. Smooth, silver-toned skin, bright violet eyes, and a calm expression. Aaron hesitated. This was no ordinary warrior. "I mean no harm," the alien said, her voice soft but steady. "My name is Lyra. I have come for my child." Aaron's heart raced. "Your child?" Lyra nodded. "The one you protected. I can feel them. Please let me see them." Aaron glanced back at the sleeping child, then back at her. "If you came here to take them back to your army, I can't let that happen. The fighting's not over." "I am not here for war," Lyra said quietly. "I am here for love." Something in her voice, the calm sorrow, made Aaron lower his weapon slightly. She stepped closer, slowly, carefully, until the child stirred awake. The moment the child saw her, it cried out, running to her side. Lyra knelt, arms open, tears shining in her eyes as she embraced her young one. A quiet sound escaped her lips, part sob, part relief. Aaron watched silently. The scene didn't feel like war anymore. It felt human. Lyra looked up at him. "You saved them," she said softly. "You saved what I could not." "Why?" Aaron hesitated. "Because no child deserves to die in a war made by adults. I just did what anyone should do." Her expression softened, touched by something she didn't fully understand. "Among my kind, such mercy is rare. You risked your life for the enemy's blood. That is, beyond honor." Before Aaron could reply, an alarm blared through the camp. Soldiers were running, lights flashing red. The detection systems had finally noticed the intruder. Lyra stood, holding her child close. "They are coming. I must go." Aaron nodded, glancing toward the chaos outside. "Take the East Ridge. It's unguarded for now." She looked at him in surprise. "You would help me escape?" He gave a small, tired smile. "You just want your child safe." "I get that." Lyra hesitated, then said softly, "I owe you a life debt, human. My people will not understand this, but I will not forget." Before he could answer, she was gone, vanishing into the smoke and night. The alarms faded, but Aaron stood in silence for a long time, staring at the empty doorway. He felt no regret, only a strange, quiet peace. Somewhere beyond the horizon, an alien mother carried her child home and began to wonder if the humans she had fought for years were truly as heartless as she had been told. The warfront had shifted far from Carthion 7, but the story of Lieutenant Aaron Vale had spread faster than any ship. Across human space, soldiers whispered about the man who saved an alien child. Some called him foolish. Others called him a symbol of compassion. The higher officers, however, were divided and deeply uncomfortable. A week after the incident, Aaron sat alone in a debriefing chamber on the orbital station Sentinel Arc. The metallic walls gleamed coldly under white lights. He wore a clean uniform now, but his left arm was still stiff from the plasma wound. Across the table sat Colonel Hayes, his commanding officer, a man of sharp eyes and a hard voice. "You disobeyed direct combat protocol." "Lieutenant," Hayes said, tapping a file on the table. "You risked your life for an enemy life form." Aaron kept his tone calm. "It was a child, sir. Alone and wounded. I couldn't just walk away." Hayes leaned forward. "That child is part of a species that has killed millions of our people. Compassion is admirable, but sentiment can cost lives." Aaron met his gaze firmly. "Then maybe that's why this war never ends. Because we forget that they're living beings too." The room went silent. The colonel studied him for a moment, then sighed heavily. "You're a good soldier, Vale, but not everyone sees things the way you do. You've become a complication." Aaron frowned. "Meaning what?" "You're being reassigned," Hayes said. "Effective immediately. Diplomatic service. There's talk of peace discussions with the Virexi. Command thinks your act of mercy may help build trust." Aaron blinked. "Peace talks? After all this time?" Hayes nodded. "Preliminary only. Don't get your hopes up, but you'll represent the frontier defense. You're to accompany the human delegation as a living symbol of goodwill." Aaron gave a tired smile. "So I'm a public story now." "Exactly," Hayes said dryly. "Try not to start another legend." Far across the galaxy, inside a grand crystal fortress orbiting the Virexi homeworld, Commander Lyra stood before her own council. The chamber was vast, filled with soft blue light and the faint hum of psychic energy. The council elders, ancient beings with luminous skin, stared down at her in silence. "You violated military orders," said Elder Cathor, his voice calm but sharp. "You entered human territory alone. You risked exposing our command secrets." "I did what any mother would do," Lyra replied. "My child was alive. No order can override that." Another elder leaned forward. "And this human, he aided you?" Lyra nodded. "He protected my young with his own life, twice." The council murmured in disbelief. "A human? Showing mercy?" "Yes," she said simply. "And more than mercy, courage. He faced death for one not of his kind." The chamber grew quiet. Lyra could feel their disbelief, their confusion. The Virexi prided themselves on honor and logic, not emotion. Compassion was considered weakness, but even they could not ignore the truth of her words. "What is your request, Commander?" the elder finally asked. I ask that his name be known among us, she said, that we remember this act and that we consider peace. The elders exchanged glances. Peace, Cathal repeated, tasting the unfamiliar word. With the humans? Lyra bowed her head slightly. If they can act with honor, perhaps we can as well. After a long pause, the council gave their decision. We will listen. The human fleets have called for truce talks. You will attend as envoy. But be warned, your human protector will be there too. Lyra's eyes flickered with surprise. Aaron Vale? Yes, said Cathor. The human who risked his life for your child. Perhaps fate demands your paths cross again. 2 weeks later, the neutral station Haven Prime floated in the void between human and Verexi space. It was massive. Half steel, half crystal. A fragile bridge between two worlds. Inside its silver halls, tension filled the air. Human officers stood on one side, Verexi commanders on the other, their languages translated by humming drones. Aaron walked among them quietly, wearing his formal uniform. Everywhere he went, eyes followed him, some respectful, some wary. He could feel the weight of both sides pressing on him. Then across the chamber he saw her, Lyra. She stood tall in her ceremonial armor, her eyes calm but filled with something he couldn't name. The light from the station shimmered against her silver skin, and for a moment the noise of the hall faded away. Their gazes met. Neither spoke, but in that silent moment both remembered the ruined moon, the broken world, and the small child between them. Lyra was the first to step forward. Lieutenant Vale, she said softly, her voice echoing through the translator. It has been. Some time, Aaron nodded. Too long, Commander. A small smile touched her lips. My child is safe, thanks to you. I'm glad, he said simply. The human diplomats and Verexi elders watched the exchange closely. It was a small moment, but it carried power. Two soldiers from opposite sides speaking not as enemies, but as people. As talks began, Aaron stood beside the human ambassador. He listened as both sides debated resources, territories, and reparations. The air was heavy with distrust. Every word seemed to hang between war and hope. But through it all, he could feel Lyra's gaze now and then. Steady and thoughtful. During a break in the talks, she approached him again, this time away from the others. You should not be here, she said quietly. Your leaders look at you with doubt. Mine look at you with confusion. Yet both sides fear you. Aaron raised an eyebrow. Fear me? I'm just one man. Not to them, Lyra replied. You are a story, a symbol that threatens their anger. He smiled faintly. Then maybe stories are what we need. Lyra studied him for a moment. You risked everything for my child. You could have left them to die. Why? Aaron looked out the viewport at the stars. Because I've seen enough death. If we keep fighting, no one wins. Someone had to stop the cycle even for a moment. Her voice softened. Among my kind, such words are strange. But perhaps they are true. They stood in silence for a while, the stars reflecting in the glass between them. That night, as the two sides prepared to sign the first small peace document, a shadow moved among the human ships docked at Haven Prime. Unknown to both parties, a radical human faction, the Iron Dawn, had decided that peace was betrayal. They planned to sabotage the talks and blame the Verexi, reigniting the war. In a dark maintenance corridor, a hidden device pulsed faintly, an explosive strong enough to destroy the entire conference wing. Aaron was on patrol duty when he heard the faint hum of the device through the metal floor. Years of battlefield instinct told him something was wrong. He followed the sound, opening a maintenance hatch, and froze when he saw the timer counting down. 10 seconds. No time to call for help. No time to think. He ran. The corridor echoed with his footsteps as he reached the conference hall. The human and Verexi leaders were already gathered to sign the treaty. Lyra was among them. Aaron, someone shouted as he burst through the doors. What are you? Get down! He yelled. Without hesitation, he threw himself forward, tackling the nearest diplomat to the floor. The explosion ripped through the walls a heartbeat later, shattering glass and metal. The blast wave hurled him across the chamber. He felt the impact, the fire, the sound fading into silence. When the dust settled, the humans and Verexi were alive, shaken, but alive. Aaron lay on the floor, his armor scorched, his body still. Lyra rushed to his side, her hands glowing with healing energy. Aaron, stay with me. she cried, her voice trembling for the first time. His eyes opened weakly. Did it work? He whispered. Yes, she said, tears in her eyes. You saved them, he smiled faintly. Then, worth it. Her heart tightened as she felt the faint bond between them, fragile yet real. She whispered, You will not die. I will not allow it. As medics and guards filled the hall, Lyra stayed beside him, refusing to leave. For the first time, both humans and Virexi saw something greater than fear. They saw unity born from sacrifice. And as the night settled over Haven Prime, a new question began to echo across the stars. Could one man's courage change the destiny of two civilizations? The weeks after the rescue were filled with whispers, confusion, and suspicion. Lieutenant Aaron Vale had become a name known on every human outpost. Some called him a hero, others a fool who had risked everything for the enemy. The story of how he protected the Virexi child had spread far beyond the battlefield. Even the higher command couldn't ignore it. Aaron was brought back to Earth Command for questioning. Inside a steel meeting room, a row of stern officers waited. The air was cold and heavy. One officer leaned forward. Lieutenant Vale, he said, his tone sharp. You're being praised by the media, but some of us wonder what really happened out there. Why would a human soldier throw himself in front of an alien child? Aaron sat still. His eyes looked tired, but calm. Because it was a child, he answered softly. Not an enemy, not a threat. Just a child who was scared and alone. The officers exchanged silent glances. His words were simple, but they struck something deep. For years, both sides had seen each other as monsters, but Aaron's act had broken that illusion, even if only for a moment. After hours of questions, he was released. The military couldn't punish him, not after his story had inspired millions across the colonies. But they didn't fully trust him either. He was sent to a neutral base near the border under observation. Meanwhile, across the stars, Commander Lyra was facing her own storm. The Virexi Council was furious that she had abandoned her mission and entered human territory. Yet when they saw the footage, the human soldier shielding her child, his body torn and bleeding, even the elders fell silent. The Virexi respected bravery, no matter where it came from. To them, Aaron Vale was a paradox, a human warrior who had shown the deepest form of honor. Lyra used her influence to speak for him. He is not our enemy, she told the council. He saved what is precious to me. If we cannot respect that, then we have lost more than this war. Her voice reached the hearts of many. Slowly, the idea of peace, once impossible, began to take root. For the first time in decades, both species agreed to open diplomatic talks. A neutral planet called Neris IV was chosen for the Peace Summit. Representatives from both sides would meet there. And among the names requested by the Virexi delegation was one human in particular, Lieutenant Aaron Vale. Aaron stood at the window of the shuttle as it approached Neris IV. The planet below shimmered with silver oceans and vast forests that glowed faintly at night. It was beautiful, untouched by war. Yet inside him he felt uneasy. He didn't know what the Virexi truly wanted. When he landed, the human ambassador greeted him politely. Lieutenant, the Virexi specifically asked for you to attend. Their leader, Commander Lyra, I believe, wants to speak to you personally. Aaron's chest tightened at the sound of her name. It had been months since their brief meeting under the twin moons. He still remembered the look in her eyes, a mix of sorrow, pride, and unspoken gratitude. The first session of the summit began in a grand hall surrounded by clear walls that showed the alien landscape outside. On one side sat the human delegation, on the other the Virexi, tall, graceful beings with luminous eyes and patterned skin that shimmered under the lights. And there she was, Lyra. She wore ceremonial armor, polished and marked with her clan's symbols. Her child sat beside her, quiet but watching Aaron with curiosity. When their eyes met, the room seemed to fade for a moment. There was no fear this time, only a silent understanding between them. The discussions began formally. Translators worked quickly, turning the complex alien language into human speech. Both sides spoke of ceasefires, trade, and prisoner exchange. But the tension never truly left the air. Generals glared at each other, and every sentence carried the weight of decades of hatred. When Aaron was asked to speak, he stood slowly. His voice was steady but gentle. I am not a diplomat, he said, and I don't have the right words like most of you. But I've seen what this war has done. I've seen burned cities, broken families, and I've seen a child who never should have been part of any of it. I don't know if peace is easy, but I know it's possible, because for one moment a human and a Virexi stopped fighting long enough to save a life. The hall went silent. Even the Virexi translators hesitated, their voices trembling slightly as they repeated his words in their own tongue. Then Lyra stood. Her deep voice echoed through the chamber. This human speaks truth. He risked everything to protect my child, and even when he had no reason to. His courage showed us that not all enemies are lost to hate. If peace is to be real, it must begin with trust, and I trust him. Her words carried great weight. The human and Virexi officials exchanged glances, realizing they were witnessing something powerful, something that might finally change everything. Over the next few days, the negotiations continued. Aaron and Lyra met several times in private discussions away from the formal tables. Their conversations were calm and honest. Lyra told him about her people's traditions, their honor codes, their families who had suffered too. Aaron shared how humans feared extinction and fought only to survive. Through their stories, they realized how much both sides had lost and how much they still could save. Sometimes her child would join them. The little one would play with a small human toy Aaron had brought, laughing softly in a way that made both adults smile. It was strange, but also hopeful. One night, as they walked near the glowing lakes of Neresfer, Lyra said quietly, "You have changed how my people see humans. Even the council now speaks of coexistence, but there are still those who do not want peace." Aaron nodded. "There are humans like that too. They're afraid. Some think peace means surrender." She looked up at the stars. "Then we must show them it is not. We must prove that courage is not only in battle, but also in forgiveness. But peace is never easy." On the fourth day of the summit, just as the final agreements were being prepared, a secret human extremist group made its move. They had infiltrated the facility disguised as technicians. To them, peace was betrayal. Hidden explosives were placed under the conference hall. They planned to strike when both delegations were inside, destroying any hope of alliance forever. Aaron noticed something strange first. A faint vibration under the floor, a sound that didn't belong. His instincts as a soldier returned instantly. He looked around, and then saw a flicker of movement from the corner of the hall. Without hesitation, he shouted, "Everyone down!" The explosion hit a second later. A wall of light and sound tore through the chamber. The shockwave shattered glass, scattering debris everywhere. Lyra grabbed her child, pulling them close. But the ceiling began to collapse, pieces of metal falling toward them. Aaron didn't think. He ran. He threw himself forward, pushing Lyra and her child away just as the beam crashed down. Pain shot through his arm as debris struck him, but he held firm, shielding them with his body once again, just as he had done long ago. When the smoke cleared, chaos filled the room. Human and Virexi guards rushed to secure the wounded. Aaron lay half-buried in rubble, his armor cracked, breathing shallow but alive. Lyra knelt beside him, her child clinging to his uninjured hand. Her voice trembled. "You did it again," she whispered. "You saved us again." Aaron smiled weakly. "Guess? It's becoming a habit." Tears welled in her eyes, and something rare for a Virexi. Around them, medics worked together, human and alien side by side. The old hatred had vanished, at least for now. The explosion meant to destroy peace had instead proved why peace was worth fighting for. As Aaron was lifted onto a stretcher, Lyra's voice echoed softly through the smoke-filled hall. "You are not just a soldier, Aaron Vale. You are a bridge between our worlds." He tried to speak, but his voice faded. All he could do was smile before the darkness took him. The smoke cleared from the conference hall, and the hum of emergency systems filled the air. Medics rushed to the injured while security forces secured the area. Despite the chaos, Aaron Vale's eyes fluttered open. Pain seared through his body, but the sight that met him steadied his heart. Lyra was kneeling beside him, her child holding his hand, eyes wide with fear and relief. The bond between them, forged through courage and trust, had become stronger than any alliance or treaty. "You're awake," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "You didn't leave us," Aaron managed a weak smile. "Wouldn't dream of it." His chest still burned, but seeing her and the child safe made every wound bearable. Around them, humans and Virexi moved together, something once unthinkable. Medics helped both human and alien delegates while guards formed a protective perimeter. The explosion had caused damage, but no lives were lost, thanks to Aaron's quick action. The aftermath of the attack brought the summit to an unexpected halt. Leaders from both sides gathered in small secure rooms, shaken but alive. Aaron was treated as a hero, though he brushed off most praise. He had done what he had to, no more, no less. Lyra stood beside him as the human ambassador approached. "Lieutenant Vale," he said carefully, "your actions have saved the summit. You've proven more than courage, and you've proven humanity." Aaron gave a small nod. "I just saved a child, that's all." The ambassador looked at him steadily. Sometimes saving a child is enough to save a whole world. Lyra's eyes met Aaron's. "He is right," she said softly. "Your act of selflessness will be remembered among my people. Humans may call you a soldier, but to us you are something more." In the following days, Aaron recovered under the careful watch of human medics, while Lyra ensured her child was safe and comfortable. They spent time together quietly, away from the politics and the tension of negotiations. The child, once timid and wary, now laughed freely. It played with small human gadgets Aaron had brought, lights, small floating drones, and soft toys, and watched him with admiration. Aaron found himself smiling more than he had in years. For the first time, he felt a sense of hope. One evening, as the twin suns of Neresurf set across the horizon, Aaron and Lyra walked together along the glowing shores of a lake. The water shimmered like liquid silver, reflecting the quiet peace that had settled over them. "You did not have to save my child," Lyra said quietly. "You could have let nature take its course. Yet you risked your life twice." Aaron looked at her. "It wasn't about heroism. It was about doing what's right. No child, human or alien, deserves to die in a war they didn't start." Her eyes softened. "Among my people, mercy is often seen as weakness, but you showed us what strength really is." They stood in silence, listening to the soft ripple of water and the distant cries of nocturnal creatures. It was peaceful, a moment far from war, far from politics. The summit resumed after the attack, and Aaron found himself present as both sides signed the preliminary peace agreement. His role was symbolic but powerful. When the final signatures were made, delegates from both species rose, shaking hands and exchanging respectful bows. Cameras captured the moment, not of a battle won, but of trust and understanding achieved. Aaron noticed the glances of those who had doubted him, both human and Virexi. Their expressions had changed. They were beginning to see that courage and compassion could transcend species, culture, and history. Lyra approached him afterward. "There will be challenges," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Not everyone will accept peace. Some will try to undo this. But for now, this moment belongs to us, to everyone who believes in a better future." Aaron nodded. "Then we make the most of it." One step at a time, her child tugged at his hand, giggling. Aaron picked the little one up gently and they laughed together. The sound, innocent and pure, echoed across the calm lake, a small yet powerful reminder of why peace mattered. Weeks later, back on Earth, Aaron was honored with a medal for bravery. The ceremony was formal, filled with applause, speeches, and flashing cameras. Yet Aaron remained humble, insisting the award belonged to all who risked their lives to save innocence. No matter which side they were on, afterward, as he walked alone through the gardens of the space station, he felt a familiar presence. Turning, he saw Lyra. Her armor was replaced with a ceremonial cloak, elegant yet simple, and her child ran to him with laughter. "We came to see you," she said simply, "and to thank you again, my people. They have already begun to speak of you as the protector of life." Aaron chuckled. "I don't need titles, I just want to see them safe." Lyra looked thoughtful. "There is a tradition among my people, rare but meaningful. We honor those who save life beyond the bounds of our kind. We call it a bond beyond species. You have earned it, Aaron Vale." His eyebrows lifted. "A bond beyond species?" She nodded. "It means that my child and I claim you as one of us in spirit. Not as a warrior, but as family. You have saved life where many would have chosen war. That choice, it cannot be forgotten." Aaron smiled faintly, feeling warmth fill his chest. "Then I am honored. And I accept." The child hugged him tightly, Aaron laughed, feeling a sense of belonging he hadn't known for years. He had protected one child, and in doing so, he had bridged the gap between two worlds. Months later, the peace treaty was implemented across human and Vorexi territories. Trade resumed, colonies rebuilt, and communication lines reopened. Though there were challenges and setbacks, the foundation had been laid. Aaron continued to serve, not only as a soldier, but as a symbol of hope. Wherever humans and Vorexi met, his name inspired dialogue instead of violence. Lyra visited often, bringing her child and stories of her people. Their friendship, once forged in war, became a bridge for understanding. Together they worked to show both species that courage, compassion, and trust were stronger than fear. One evening, as Aaron watched the twin moons rise over a distant city, Lyra's child ran to him with a small flower-like plant glowing faintly. "For you," the child said. Aaron knelt and took it carefully. "Thank you. This will remind me of why I fight, and for life, for hope, for everyone." Lyra stood behind him, watching. "You have changed history, Aaron. You have reminded us all that one act of courage can ripple through generations. You have shown that even in the darkest times, humanity, your humanity, is capable of the brightest light." He looked at her and nodded, the weight of his journey finally settling in. "We only need to choose to protect it," he said softly. The sun set, painting the sky with shades of orange and violet. Across the stars, humans and Vorexi alike began to see that the bonds between species could surpass fear, hatred, and centuries of war. And in the heart of it all, one human soldier, who had once risked his life to save a child, had become a symbol of hope, courage, and unity. For Aaron Vale, the journey had begun on a ruined colony moon, but it did not end there. It continued in the hearts of all who dared to protect life, to choose compassion over conflict, and to believe that even the smallest act of kindness could change the course of history. The Vorexi mother who had once searched the stars for her child now stood beside him, a partner in rebuilding trust. Together they looked toward a future that, though uncertain, was brighter than anything either species had seen in generations. And somewhere, across countless worlds, whispers began to spread. The human who defended the enemy's child. The one who united two species. The protector of life. It was a legend born of courage, compassion, and a bond beyond species. The stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter that night, as if the universe had taken notice of what one human could achieve, simply by choosing to protect life.